Alright, what's good, YouTube? I'm out here in London, came down to London for the day. Braced the heat wave in the UK to come down to London for one specific purpose. Today is Friday the 12th of August. That means Jordan Peele is about to drop a nuke in the cinemas over here. It's already come out in America a few weeks ago. I've been waiting on it. Nope is out today. So yeah, that's what I come down here to see. I thought I'd switch it up. Instead of me just being sat in the room back home doing a review, I thought I'd come down here, record a bit of my journey, my trip. I'm going to the BFI IMAX. So basically, Nope is the first film to ever be shot, or the first horror film to be shot in IMAX. Jordan Peele did that, put some respect on his name. So because of that, I want to see it in IMAX. And BFI IMAX in London is the biggest IMAX screen in Europe. Been here, have I been here a couple times? Or maybe once. I think I've only been here once actually, and I think that was just for Dune, and it was incredible. So I thought I'd come down here again, show out for my man Jordan Peele, and see Nope on the biggest IMAX screen in Europe. Obviously I'm not going to be able to show you the size of the screen, because I'm not going to be allowed the camera in there, but yeah, so yeah, that's why I come down here. But expectations, I don't really have any expectations for this film, because I don't really know what it's about. I've kept away from all the details. In fact, all I know is UFOs, and I predicted the UFOs way before they revealed it. Just by looking at the poster, I tweeted well in advance about UFOs. So yeah, that's all I know. I don't know. I'm intrigued to see how this is, because most of what I've seen, the film's set in the daytime. So to have a horror film in the daytime is always an interesting concept. So I'm interested to see what Jordan Peele does with it. All right, so if you see this big ass dome behind me, that building right there, that massive thing, looks like a Coliseum. That's the BFI IMAX, so that's where I'm heading. But to actually get in there, you gotta go like underground. Like there's these steps that go underground, and it's like this underpass that connects through, because that right there is like in the middle of a roundabout, so you can't just walk directly up to the building. So right now I'm about to head down these steps, and then we head underground, and that's how you got access to the front. So as you can see now, walking back down here, and that's one of the entrances right there actually. So yeah, you come underground to get to it, because it's right in the middle of this roundabout, busy roundabout near Westminster where Big Ben is and all that. So yeah, we're practically here now. Yeah, it might be a bit dark in here, but I just got out of seeing Nope. This is basically going to be first impressions. I literally just walked out the cinema, and I'm quite shocked in a good way. I didn't have much expectations going in, like I said, but the UFO thing was the main thing, and I think that's the one thing that a lot of people have caught onto with the movie. But there's a very smart subversion of expectations with what Jordan Peele's done with that film, and I'm really impressed by that. And it feels wholly unique in the execution of his concept. But if there was one film, I mean, there's a couple maybe that I could use as a point of reference for inspiration. But if there's one film that it evokes the feeling of a little bit for me, would be Spielberg's War of the Worlds, which is one of my favorite films. And I can't really go into details, obviously, for spoiler reasons, about why it evoked that feeling. But yeah, I was really impressed with the film and the scale of the film. It's actually a really large scale film, more than you think it is. The trailers kind of scratched the surface with the scale of the film, and yeah, performance is great. Daniel Kaluuya, of course, Keke Palmer, chemistry between them as brother and sister was great, and even the other cast members in the film are pretty good as well. And the writing, of course, was on point. There's a lot of humor. It's not an outright comedy per se, but there is a lot of humor throughout, well-written humor. But the mystery of the film and what's going on, and some of the reveals you get as the film progresses on, I thought they were really well handled. Cinematography, I can't remember the cinematographer's name, but it's the cinematographer that Christopher Nolan uses, and made, I think he shot Dunkirk for Nolan, and Tenet as well actually. And the way he framed a lot of the action that goes on in this film really amped up the mystery side of it and the intrigue and just the whole suspense of it all. So I thought that was really well handled. And I saw it in IMAX, of course, and yeah, it is a film worthy of IMAX because the scale is huge. And it's one of those films where fitting certain things in frame, they purposely don't fit things in frame, even in the IMAX format. So I can't imagine watching it in the normal format and, you know, getting the whole frame of the picture or a good view of things, because it's just not going to be the same. But yeah, I was really impressed with it. Going to take some time to really think about it, because there's a lot of stuff that's, you know, kind of left to your interpretation. So there's a lot to think about and things to piece together. Maybe not as much as what it was for us, but there still is quite a bit to kind of think about. And then one other thing I want to say is I'm a big fan of Lovecraft's work and the work that's inspired Lovecraft. And I feel like there's an element of Lovecraftian stuff in this film. That's as far as I'll go because I don't want to spoil it. But that's my first impressions. Okay, so I literally just got back home from London. I've had a few hours to process my thoughts about Note. And the first thing I want to touch upon is the subtext of the film, because with Jordan Peele's previous movies, people have now kind of got this expectation of there being a social commentary within the movie itself. And people will go into his films now just looking for that automatically. And this film certainly has it. I just don't think it's as overt and obvious as Get Out and Us was in that regard. Whereas with those films, it was kind of at the forefront of what the film was and everything about it. With this film, you could kind of just watch it as a blockbuster and not think about the subtext to it. But the subtext is there for those that want to kind of think about it and dive into it. And I think it's got some interesting things to explore and to say. But I do think that subtext will fly over the head of some viewers, simply because I think a lot of viewers do participate in the types of things that the film's exploring, and because they are so in tune with that type of behaviour, I don't think they'll pick up on the actual commentary that's being made, because to them it's normal. This is a film about spectacle, chasing the big moment kind of thing. It also seems like a very personal film in regards to what that subtext means to Jordan Peele as a whole, because you could see it as a way of him kind of showcasing that conflict in wrestling with spectacle. It's a film about, you know, and trying to create spectacle for an audience, for example, which is exactly what he's doing with his films. And obviously with the level of popularity he's gained and critical acclaim, that comes with a higher expectation for the next piece of work. So it could be viewed in a very personal way in that sense. But it's also a film about trauma and how trauma and people in general can often be exploited for personal and monetary gain. It also, you know, explores that theme. There's also a theme about kind of obsessive desires for attention and the lengths that some people will go to obtain that. There's a lot of interesting themes within this film, but like I said, I think it can go over your head if you're not really paying attention or if you're not really looking for it. I feel like the film introduces these little concepts and peppers them throughout, but it is up to you to kind of, if you want to get more out of it, it's up to you to really kind of think and analyse what's going on. And I do like that, you know, I like a film that doesn't just hold your hand all the way, kind of just presents things for you to then piece together. And I think this film does that even more so than the last two films he made did, because those ones were a bit more obvious with their direct themes and social commentary and subtext. The cast in this film was fantastic. Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, and everyone else were great, but the chemistry between those two as brother and sister and their dynamic was like the heart of the film, and really breathed life. They breathed life into every scene. The dialogue was fantastic, and the writing overall for the film was really strong. And I think it's got to the point now where Jordan Peele is so good at that we almost expect it and just take it for granted. So I do want to make sure I highlight the fact that the writing was really strong. Because like I said, the way he does pepper in some of those subtextual discussions within the story, I think it does really benefit the overall kind of picture of the film
in a way where he's made, like I said, he's made a blockbuster, a summer blockbuster film, but it still has the layers you'd expect from Jordan Peele, and I think that's a really impressive thing, because this film is a gigantic science fiction blockbuster. It's a cosmic horror science fiction partial western blockbuster. So it's a few different genres combined into one in big blockbuster form. And when prior to the film releasing, and when people spoke about the fact that it was a blockbuster, I didn't really know it was going to be to this degree, because it really is a large scale film. But interestingly enough, it's a large scale film that showcases tremendous scale at times, despite the fact that it's actually a very contained mystery. So it's kind of got the balance of both. So it is your big blockbuster movie with big scale sequences, but the overall mystery and story is actually very, very focused and contained, because it's mostly set in one location, and the film only has a handful of characters. So it's kind of got your typical kind of horror, almost low budget-esque, one setting, minimal characters thing going on one end of it, and then on the other end of the spectrum you've got your big budget action. And the fact that Jordan Peele has managed to level himself up to handling that type of scale with this level of finesse is really, really impressive. And like I said, he got the help from, I can't remember his name, but the cinematographer that worked on Interstellar, Dunkirk, etc. Obviously he was a big help, and him as cinematographer did a fantastic job. One of my favorite elements of this film was how they captured and shot the skies. Any sequence in this film that focuses on what's up above in the sky is masterfully done. The way they captured movement amongst the skies as well and through the clouds was really unique, but also in a way it was done in a way that I'd imagine is how it would be if I was fearfully trying to track something that's moving and zipping by through the clouds. I was really impressed with the cinematography overall, and that was a big part in creating this real large-scale experience that felt very grand. And like I said, in IMAX, this film really is perfect for IMAX, because there's certain shots in this film that I don't know if they'll have the same effect watching it in the normal format, because you're missing so much of the frame, whereas whenever there's shots of the sky in this film, it pretty much is always in the IMAX format and the IMAX ratio, which just opens up the whole frame to the sky, which really lets you analyze the whole sky, and it helps build a lot of tension within the scenes. Those scenes that focus on the sky and what's above, they have a similar effect to Jaws, but almost in reverse. So obviously with Jaws, Spielberg made you fear the ocean, made you fear all the open space that was below you as you were being watched by a threat that you couldn't see. Whereas in this film, Peele makes you fear the skies and all the open space that's above you as you're being watched by a threat that you can't see. And it really did have that type of effect. And also the fact that the majority of this film takes place in the daytime, they still managed to create a lot of suspense during daylight, and within those sequences as well, which was really impressive. There's one shot in particular in this film, it blew my mind. It's one of those shots that I saw, and as soon as I saw it, I just thought, that is spectacular. Like, it was a jaw-dropping shot. There was a few sequences in this film that made my jaw drop, but that particular shot that I'm speaking about really blew my mind, and it was almost like a perfect cosmic horror shot. Like, I can imagine that shot being a piece of artwork in a H.P. Lovecraft novel or something like that. It was a really grand, well put together shot that really just, on a scale that I didn't realize this film was going to operate on. And it's without a doubt one of the best shots Jordan Peele has ever put on film thus far in his career. The film very clearly has H.P. Lovecraft in its DNA. The influence is quite easy to spot if you're familiar with H.P. Lovecraft. And to be honest, I didn't expect that going in. I didn't really expect it to get a little Lovecraftian, but it does, and I'm glad that it does, because I love cosmic horror. And I feel like this is a good entry point for cosmic horror. So if you're not familiar with cosmic horror, I feel like some people would watch this and it would pique their interest to make them want to explore more complex and thought-provoking cosmic horror stories, which is just really cool in itself, that it can introduce people to a different subgenre of horror. Something that I personally find scary is that concept of everything that we don't know. So if you think about extraterrestrial life forms, you know, what's beyond the stars, you know, different type of beings that exist. What we don't know about them I find quite intriguing, but that's also frightening conceptually to me. So, and that's why I really like cosmic horror, because it really plays on that. Within H.P. Lovecraft's stories, he kind of introduced the concept of like metaphysical beings that are so evolved compared to human forms of life, that we get driven to madness just in being in their presence, because we can't comprehend them because they're so evolved compared to us. I love that type of concept, and there's an element of that within here, but there's more of an obvious tie to Lovecraft in terms of influence within the film as well. The sound design is fantastic in this film, it really is. It's really immersive, and there's a film that it reminds me of. One of my favorite films of all time, and one of my most memorable cinema experiences when I was a kid, was Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. That film really captivated me. I watched it when I was 10 years old in the cinema, and one thing I never forgot about with that film was how menacing and thunderous those alien tripods sounded in the cinema. And that really stuck with me, and I love that film. This film comes very close to that level in terms of sound design that really just immerses you with intimidation. They did a fantastic job with the sound in this film. But yeah, I can't really talk about a whole lot more of the film without going into spoilers. But the film subverts your expectations, or it subverted mine anyway. I didn't really have any big bold expectations of what I thought was going to happen, but just conceptually and in terms of what that first teaser trailer, because that's the only trailer I saw, shown you, it subverted my expectations in terms of what we were really dealing with. That's as far as I could really go, but for those that have seen the film, you probably know what I'm talking about, what I'm referring to. You know, what the, you know, yeah, I was really impressed with that reveal. There's a reveal in the film where you suddenly click and you realize what they're actually dealing with. I really like that kind of twist and subversion of expectation. Yeah, I really like that. That's the most I can say about that right now. But knowing me, I'll end all this and I'll probably be editing this video and then realize I forgot to say something that I wanted to say. But I think I've got everything out that I wanted to say about this film between my first impressions and this right now. If you want to see a spoiler video, let me know. I don't know if I'll end up doing one, because I don't know if I could say a whole lot more at this present time about the film that I haven't already said. But that's my thoughts on Nope. As for Jordan Peele, that motherfucker don't miss, man. He just don't miss. That man is shooting 100% from the field, 3 for 3 when it comes to original genre films. What can this man do? Like, that's one thing about this film. He really impressed me with the scale of this thing, because I think this film is operating on a spectacle and scale that a lot of people aren't expecting from Jordan Peele, especially with just his third film. It's really impressive in that regard. Yeah, and I mean, and negative-wise, were there any negatives? I can't think of any, really. I really can't. And I think it's one of those films that's gonna grow on me with subsequent viewings as well. Like, when I watch it again, I think I'm gonna like it even more than I already do. And and I don't really have any negatives that spring to mind right now. It could be a case that after a few viewings, certain things pop into mind. But Stephen Yeun, actually, I want to talk about him. He was very good in this film. There's a lot going on with his character in this film. There's a lot under the surface there. He's a very important character in this whole story, actually. And his performance was great. And the way the character was written was very interesting. And I think watching the film multiple times, you're going to get rewarded with extra details that you spot with his character that you wouldn't have noticed the first time, because you wouldn't have known where that character was placed within the film and where they'd ultimately end up. So yeah, he's a very important part of this film that I really liked as well. And there's also one scene in the film, which I won't spoil, that also reminded me of War of the Worlds. It's a similar thing to what happens in that film, but obviously just done differently, and I did not know this film was going to go in that direction at all, so that was a pleasant surprise. But anyway, I've spoken enough, so that's my thoughts on Nope. Get in the comment section, let me know what you thought of the film. Did you enjoy it? Rank your Jordan Peele films below. I think right now, I'm going to say Get Out is number 1, Nope is number 2, Us is number 3, but I do love all 3 of them. I think that's my current ranking, but let me know your ranking below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, that'll help me out. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys soon.